I feel like I talk to a lot of people that have ideas, but they don't do it. And I think like that, and that's the thing that I feel like is a strength of mine, is just to do it. Like if you have an idea, if there's a movie you want to write, if there's a TV show you want to write, if there's a podcast you want to do, like just do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are delighted to welcome two truly exceptional individuals to our podcast today, Gabi Conti and Daren Johnson. If Gabi looks familiar, it's because this actually marks her second visit to our podcast couch, and this time we insisted she brought her incredible husband along with her. Over the next hour, we'll dive into their beautiful and unique love story while simultaneously doling out some much-needed dating advice. We'll celebrate their remarkable individual achievements and what they look forward to in the future, test their knowledge on the modern dating dictionary, and get their reaction to possibly the shittiest dating story I've heard in a very, very long time. Gabi and Daren, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Oh my God,
I'm excited because now Hannah and the guests can't team up on me.
Oh.
I have a male counterpart.
Well, it could be this side and this side. We'll see. We'll see how it all kind of comes out.
And this is Daren's first ever podcast, like ever.
Which I think is just incredible. I'm going to move this closer to you because I want to hear you. Daren, congratulations.
I know. This is really cool. I'm happy to be here. It's a nice little setup.
And we know a little bit about you and your story, how you were the 31st.
Yeah, I love how you forgot that it was 30 dates in 3 days.
Did you see that reaction?
Yes, I was dying. I was like, we had a whole conversation about it, and then on another podcast, it was brought up, and he was like, that's not possible.
Because it was 30 dates in 30 days, right?
3 days. Oh my God, I was about to say.
In 3 days.
Because I think it is. It's so like beautifully but astonishing, the fact that someone could even fathom going on 30 days in 3 days, but yet Daren was lucky number 31.
31st.
No, but he wasn't even.
No, he wasn't part of it. He's technically my 31st first date. So like I had gone on 30 first dates during the time of the experiment, and then he was the 31st first date. So like the first. I know
it's confusing, but in the best way.
Yeah.
It was fresh because you were still doing like publicity for it.
Yes, I was coming off publicity for it, and then also that was a big thing that bonded us. Is I was also getting a lot of backlash, and he was like very supportive and very kind and calm throughout all of it. Where I feel like that just takes such a specific guy. I feel like a lot of guys might be cocky about it or like not kind about it, but he totally sympathized with me and what I was going through, and was like very supportive through the whole time, because it was
love a supportive man.
Yeah.
What was the backlash?
There was like a lot of people were very upset that I had the audacity to go on 30 dates in 3 days. There was a lot of slut shaming. There was a lot of assumptions. A lot of people didn't actually like watch the video or read the article. A lot of people were ripping me apart and my appearance, like, you know, and how
Really?
it was
But like where? Like on social media?
it was in in the Cosmos YouTube video. There was the comments on there. There were the comments. The Daily Mail then did a piece, and so then there were the people, the comment section of the Daily Mail, which still has like 300. Anytime I need to be like, I need to just get a little grounded, right? Or like I like read the comments, so they're so mean. And then I went on Inside Edition, and then the comments on that were like really mean too.
I had no idea about all this.
People
Yeah, there was a lot of
ruthless.
backlash, mostly from men. Like it was mostly men, just like
Really?
that were very upset about that I had the audacity to do that.
But what was their grievance with the whole thing? I mean, what was their grievance?
Well, like that I wasn't attractive enough to do it, first of all, or that I was like too easy, and the assumption that I made men pay for everything, which I did, and I offered every time, and oftentimes I did pay, and I was happy to do so. And then also that I was like trying to like trick men, but that was also not the case. It was really, I was genuinely looking for a connection, and I just happened to be writing about it.
Did you tell the men that you were going on dates that is what you were doing?
I wanted to. Initially, I wanted to tell every single one of them, but my editor said that if you do that, you might not get an authentic read, and I really was looking for an authentic connection. Yeah. So half of the dates were from dating apps, and they didn't know because of that, and the other half were set up so they knew. So it was kind of like 50-50. Okay. But I did say if they asked me out on a second date that I would then be transparent about it.
Well, yeah, it kind of poisons the control group, really,
right.
If you go into it sitting going, this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm doing it.
Yeah, it makes it not the same.
Puts
like,
pressure
connection.
on the guy, too. It'd be like, oh, I'm competing with 30 other people.
Or I'm going to be written
it's
about, so
yeah,
got to button myself
pretend
up.
to be someone else. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
which takes...
Daren, did you know about this prior to your first date with her, or as you started dating, you knew about it?
Not prior to our first date, but I found out about it pretty quickly. But I mean, I was impressed. I was like, she showed me like a spreadsheet that she made of like how she like scheduled all of her dates, and I was like, okay, this one's, you know, she's a keeper. This impressive.
Efficient.
And he was working in finance at the time, so it was like numbers, great.
But now, did you ask on your second date, am I part of the next round of 30 guys and 30
I did. I was like, so this isn't like part of an article, right? And like, she assured me that it wasn't, which makes sense now because she was like totally exhausted from that whole experience and just wanted
But I will say that for the first month of dating, Daren was really paranoid that I was writing about our relationship. And so and then
it was too good to be true. So,
but after the month you got over it, right? Like once we became official, like boyfriend and girlfriend, and we were in like exclusive relationship, you kind of were like, okay, this is the real thing. And then you forgot about it. But when we got married in our vows, I said, Daren, when we first started dating, thought I was gonna how to lose a guy in 10 days.
I was just gonna say that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah. And so I'm here to tell you in front of our family and our friends that you were absolutely right. The article will be coming out tomorrow. And like my side of the family was like dying, and his side were like quiet, calm people from Indiana thought I was serious. So like didn't know me because we kind of like got serious during COVID and got engaged during COVID, and our wedding was like towards the end of COVID. So yeah, it was kind of funny to see that.
So we're both COVID couples.
Yeah.
I'll see. We are living proof. That
It works.
Either pushes you
I have
together
a
or pulls you
confession,
apart.
Exactly.
I went on 20 dates in 2 days before I met
you. I don't think you'd have the patience nor the mental capacity to be able to do something like that.
Probably not the money to do it.
Nah, true.
I think it's much harder not to stereotype, but I feel like a man would have a much harder time like organizing it and like staying focused.
Organizing would probably be problem one.
Yeah.
Remembering that I said something to the last date, not the current date, would be problem two.
Which you said that you had issues with anyway when you were on a whole plethora of dating apps anyway. So yeah.
Yeah, and then I would probably just be like tired of talking because that's a lot of talking.
Yeah, it's a lot of talking.
So like how like on average, like what, an hour date?
Yeah, it had to be an hour. So it had to be, I aimed to do 10 dates a day, an hour for each date. So they weren't all like, sometimes there was like a drink or a coffee, but then I couldn't have too many coffees and too many drinks in a day because I'd be like too high caffeinated or a little drunk. So I tried to do like walks. I tried to do a lunch, a breakfast. And actually I really started to like the idea of a breakfast date, like before your day to like go get breakfast with someone. It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of nice. Like I that should be more of a thing.
Did you have to like rearrange dates where you had a breakfast set up and the guy was like, well, I don't want to go to breakfast, I want to go?
Well, there were some that tried to like change things, and then I would try to amend, but it was a lot of like logistics, which I guess my background, I've done a lot of producing in my day, so I think that kind of, it was really producing all the dates.
So I have a $1 million question.
Yeah.
When you went on the 31st date with Daren, what was the first thing that you noticed where you're like, okay, this is different. This feels different. He's done something that none of the other 30 guys did, or he made me feel something that none of the other 30 guys did.
Well, it's interesting because we didn't have a great start. So it was more about what happened like later in the date than it happened like the first, like there was an instant attraction. I was like instantly attracted to him and we had a connection, but I didn't know that he was really tired on our first date. And so I would ask him a question and he would respond, and then he wouldn't ask me a question back. And that was like really getting on my nerves. And that was something. And then from the 30 dates in 3 days, I learned to kind of just like say what I needed to say and like not care about, being like whatever. Because if it's not meant, like be authentically myself. And if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. Like don't
we
try
preach
to
that all the time.
Like stop being so polite. Like just be honest. So I did that, and when I did that, I basically after like the first round, I said I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and if you don't start asking me questions when I come back, I'm leaving after this.
Was it kind of a
rounds.
joke, or was it like?
It was a little bit of a joke. It was a little sassy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I like, it was a bit of a wake up call, and I was like, okay, I'm game for this challenge. Like,
right.
But also, I was like more casual about it. Like, she was used to these like very efficient 1 hour dates. Like, I like skipped lunch that day, like drove all the way across town in like an hour and a half of traffic. Got there, was like ready to order a little food, and sure enough, like an hour was up.
Also proceeded to order dinner, asked me what I thought looked good, and then I hadn't eaten dinner. We didn't say it was a dinner date. We said it was just a drinks date. Got a full meal, ate the entire thing, didn't offer me any of it. But then when he was like, oh, I'm really tired, I'm like, well, I guess that makes sense. Like, he was like in total zombie mode, but he woke up, and then, so it was from that moment on, from calling it out and the way that he took it so well, and he was so kind about it, where I feel like a lot of people could have taken it the other way and been like, well, fuck you, and like left, but he was so kind about it.
What was going through your head when she kind of laid down the law, really?
Well, I mean, it was like assertive, which I wasn't like super expecting, but she was right. Like, I was talking about myself, like, or because she's so good at asking questions you know, like being the host she is. So I was just like, oh, these are great questions. I'll just tell you all these answers. And then, you know, it's just like manners, I guess. I didn't think to like reciprocate those questions. So,
But I think
you know.
that's like a really good example of the fact that, you know, in your head, you're sitting there going, this fucking dude.
Yeah.
It's not even asking me
Yeah.
anything about myself. But in reality, you'd skipped lunch, you were exhausted. You weren't really in that mind frame of like fully investing in what was going on. So, but she was like, you don't ask me a fucking question about myself. And then that kind of clicked something in your brain and it started to progress from there.
It broke the ice, and it could have went two ways, but it went in the right way, in the way that we like were now being fully authentically ourselves. I was already fully authentically myself, and I think it woke him up to be like, okay, well, this is who I really am, and to be honest with me about the day that he had.
Yeah, that's why I don't like the red flag thing, because this could have been a red flag in the first 15 minutes, and some
Or
people
deal breaker,
advise,
yeah.
like, hey, if this happens in the first 15 minutes or an hour, like, just leave. And I know, like, Hannah has left some dates, and like some other women on the podcast have just left the date. And
Yeah,
it's
but mine was atrocious, mate. Like,
What happened?
oh, this fella, like when we talk about like not talking about, this fella was the most self-involved, like atypical fucking narcissist I've ever encountered. Like, and it was painful to sit across from him, and it was like 45 minutes of him just like sitting on his phone, not paying attention, not even asking questions in general, let alone questions about myself.
Did he know he was on a date?
Oh yeah. And he showed up late, and then I said, well, do you know where the restroom is? And he's like, oh, he literally didn't even look up from his phone. He's like, somewhere over there. And then instead of going to the bathroom, I walked out the front door.
Yeah, that to me feels like more than, but I do know some of my friends will take like little tiny things and be like, well, make it a deal breaker,
Yeah.
which I think are more like what Daren did, I would define as more of a beige flag, less of a red flag, or could be a red flag, but when you know the context of it, it's more of a beige flag.
Yeah, and I think that's the perfect word, is the context, because
Right. That's not excusable though.
No.
Because that's just rude. That's just like
It was straight up rude.
Yeah.
But like, as you said, there's no blankets. Like with these red flags and these, you know, these deal breakers, it cannot be a blanket statement.
no.
It can't just be like this one instance is applicable to everything.
yeah, because it's similar to what you did to me, putting me on the spot. It would seem that I wasn't into Hannah or that Daren wasn't into you,
Yeah.
but there's context to it.
Wait,
So,
what happened on your first date?
No, it was our third date.
Third date. Okay.
Yeah, she.
You want to tell the story?
Well, I was just like stupid. I moved from New York and I was having fun. And on our second date, I really, really had strong feelings for her, but I was like fighting them internally.
Mhm.
So on the third date, and she started to be more honest with who she was, and I wasn't ready for that either.
What do you mean honest about who she was?
I think just like I laid out like who I was as a human being. Like I deal with mental health struggles,
yeah.
you know, these types
Yeah,
of things
yeah.
because I could feel myself really falling for this fella. And I'm kind of like you. I'm a no bullshit type of
Right.
person. I'm going to let you know what I deal with, who I am, and then you can make a decision of whether you want to pursue this. But he almost told me that he loves me on our second date. I could see it like written across his lips.
Yeah, and then on the third
Wow.
date, I was kind of a coward before.
Yeah.
You know, I got into my 30s and I'd be like, oh, if I don't like somebody, I'll just figure out how to like not see them again. But I was like, you know
Ghost
what?
them.
Yeah,
That's
basically,
Well, I
that's
wouldn't fully ghost her. I would just figure out like how to get out of it because I didn't want to like confront the situation, which was immature.
Yeah.
But I
So
was like,
Casper.
Yeah.
So if they reached out,
kind
you'd
of.
be like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm just really busy.
Yeah.
We'll see each other soon. Okay, when?
Exactly.
Soon.
So I was like, you
soon.
know what? Let me be a stand-up guy and go over to her place and kind of tell her that I'm not really feeling it anymore.
But you were feeling it. You were
Right.
just doing it as a defense mechanism.
Right.
It's a knee-jerk
Exactly.
reaction.
Yeah.
So when I did that, she was like, well, why don't you sit down and tell me about this? And I was like, what? I thought she'd just be like, fuck you, like,
Yeah, yeah.
goodbye. And she sat me down to talk about it. And I talked about it with her. And she kind of just helped me get through it. And then obviously now we're here.
Well, I
Wow.
just said to him, I was like, listen, I know that you like me and I know that I like you. We can feel the connection between each other. I was like, but I also know that you're scared.
Mhm.
I was like, but I'm not the type of person to have someone 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So you need to make a decision right now whether you want to walk down this path with me or not, because it's no skin off my nose.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go for it, that's fine. I'll move
Yeah.
on to the next. But
Damn.
let's like really think about this, because once we've closed that door, there's no opening it again.
And you probably thought that you could kind of like maybe leave the door a little bit open. And
Yeah.
then,
I still thought that
and
for a
then
little
come
bit.
back. Yeah. But
And I
that's
was
good
like,
that you said that.
No,
Yeah.
cannot do that.
That's not, yeah. Damn.
But again, it's
But
not.
it takes the right woman to make us feel uncomfortable. And then we stay
Right.
because it's worth it.
And also, it takes also the right man to deal with that. Because,
Right.
like, there are certain men that you would have had that conversation with, and they've been like, okay, yeah, no, okay, bye. Or been like vague and been like, yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. I'll see you when I see you.
Exactly.
And then you'd be like, no, you won't. And then they would still be texting you for months. You're like, we broke up. I broke up with you.
Like leave me the fuck alone. But I think that's a lesson to everybody out there, is the fact that like when you stand your ground, if someone shies away from that, then they're not your person.
Right.
If they're gravitated towards that strength within you and that like that boundary that you put in place, then it may just be your person. Just like
Aw.
Daren and Joe. See?
Yeah, who are both Tauruses. I
Both
understand.
Tauruses.
When's your birthday?
May 17th.
May
He's the
1st.
first.
Yeah.
Nice.
Perpetually late.
So late. Always late.
Always late.
Always late. They're on. My friend Joy, her boyfriend's also a Taurus, and she calls it Taurus time. Like you're like, oh hey, so we're gonna meet in like 5 minutes, and like 30 minutes later they show up.
I'm
like,
gonna steal that.
Well,
Yeah.
that was my email to you guys
Taurus time,
because
yeah.
I just stack all my meetings because I don't care. And I was like, oh shoot, we're gonna be late. Let me just tell them 5:15. And she's like, dude, you can't do that. Oh my god, it's all
Pushing
right.
things
No,
back,
it's fine.
darling.
It worked.
But I'm definitely going to steal that
Yeah.
because I thought it was just a Joe.
No,
but
it's such a astrology. There's things that are true and they're not true, but that is like every single Taurus man I have met. I think it's specifically Taurus men. That is so true.
We live
about
longer
them.
because we're not stressed on time.
You keep preaching this fact, but I'm
It's
not sure
true.
it's
Look it
true.
up.
Hey, all right, I'll look it up later in the episode.
Wait, does Daren have man eyes? Because I get accused of having man eyes.
What are man eyes? What do you mean?
We'll send you the clip, but apparently, and I do this 3 or 4 times a day. She's like, "Can you give me the lighter?" And I'm like, "Where is it?" And she's like,
And it will be right there.
Oh,
But he won't
and I'll
even
be like,
look
"Where are
first.
the keys?"
Huh.
Or "Where is my backpack?" And she's just like, "Right there."
I think
Right
Daren
there.
wears contacts, so I think
He has a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, it's just more about being observant, and
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably
Yeah, he's probably I think a
Do
little
that as
lack
well.
of observation.
Yeah.
Yeah, being
We'll send you the clip though. It's really
Yeah.
Oh
funny.
my god, it
funny.
made me laugh. And oh my god, so truly Joe.
man
All
eyes.
right, Darren, I want to like dive into your career a little bit, and then we'll get into Gabby's.
Fun.
So you made a very significant career jump from investment banking to entrepreneurship with the launch of Hollywood Classic Cars. Can you share what
Yes.
motivated this change and what inspired you to start a vintage car rental company?
Well, so yeah, I worked for about 10 years in finance, and it was fun. Like I enjoyed it. I got a lot of good like business experience. Investment banking is tough though. It's like long hours, and it can be stressful because the deals you're working on are like big M&A deals, and like everybody's like stressed because it's just important. And so I was, I would say I got by, but it was never like my real like calling. So, I kind of thought about like, if I can do something that I'm a little more passionate about, something that I can take what was a hobby for me, which was, just being a car enthusiast, maybe I'll like apply myself to that like next level where it's like something that really motivates me. And so, I guess the timing was right with, meeting Gabi, and
Oh, it happened around the same time.
yeah, I was still working in finance when we met, and I was overworked, like our story when we first
Overworked,
met.
but something that was also such a green flag and so great about him is that I had dated guys in the past who said they were busy and they were like out of work actors, and he was actually busy and like made time for me. Not that there's anything wrong with an out of work actor, go SAG after, but like the fact that like they like saying they're busy, but like you actually know their work schedule is not that busy versus someone who I knew his work schedule was insane, but he still made me a priority.
It's so sexy.
Yeah.
So attractive.
So I was trying to maintain a social life and also excelling in invest. It's tough. So I thought, well, this seems like a good time to transition, and it was really, I'd say, in the pandemic when I thought.
Well, you forgot the part that he was doing this as a side hustle. So
right.
he was on Turo, which is like Airbnb for cars, and how many years had you done it on the side?
Like, at least 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4
At
years.
least,
And
yeah.
actually, to me, I found that really attractive about him because it wasn't like, yes, he had this job that was very serious that I really couldn't relate to. But the fact that he was passionate about this side hustle and was an entrepreneur, much like myself is with, being an author and all the other things I do, I found that so incredibly like that he was passionate about this. And he had made a profit on the couple of cars that you had done on the side. You had made a profit, like you had rented it out and then sold the car and then made a profit.
Yeah.
So there was like you had the proof of concept. When you
Exactly.
decided
Yeah,
to
I
go
knew there was a
full-time.
market in LA, and so vintage cars can be used for so many things, like photo shoots, music videos, and weddings, and there's just such a big, industry for that here. So I was pretty confident going into it, but the passion, yeah, I think I realized when like I would like go to events, even when I was still working in finance, and people would ask me like, what do you do for a living? And I'd be like, well, I'm an investment banker. And they would kind of like, they knew or they didn't know. I'd be like, but I do this really cool thing also with like vintage cars. And then people would just get so interested and ask me lots of questions. And I realized like, it's something like I'm more excited about. And so, yeah, I just did it. And it was definitely a big decision, but she was super supportive. And
did she kind of inspire you to, because I also left finance to do this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure you had the same licenses and all that hard work, and getting that and giving that up is super risky.
Right.
Was meeting Gabi part of pushing you? And also, like, how did you give all that up? Because being in investment banking is some people's dream job, most people's dream jobs.
Yeah, I think that I knew there was a risk for sure. But, you know, having like a supportive partner is very helpful. But and she, in the beginning too, I would bounce ideas off of her, and so I was in a good place.
He almost opened a liquor store.
Yeah, I was looking to buy businesses.
And I was like, no, why don't you do the car thing? Because you know the car thing.
And that's your passion
was like-
as well.
Yeah.
It was gonna be a high end. Like,
it was a
wine,
liquor store, and then it
and,
was a grocery
you know,
market, and then we would just be going to grocery markets in like the pandemic, and he'd be like, maybe this one. I'm like, Daren,
Like an Arrow
you've
one.
never opened up a grocery market.
Yeah, I just wanted to be in business for myself, and so you look at like traditional business models because you're like, well, this is proven, so you know I'm not risking everything, but I'm glad I went the route I did because you know I get to, you know, working with cars, on cars, whatever. It's doesn't feel like work to me, which is why, like, you know, allows me to, you know, work even harder and not feel like I'm overworked. But
Oh yeah.
Were people shocked when you left the company?
oh well, yeah. I mean, and I think like when I told people that I was, you know, going to start a business, like I had seen other people in the finance industry do that, and then if it failed, they would come back in some capacity, either working like a corporate job again, like in-house for a smaller company, or I knew I wasn't going to be back in like M&A, investment banking, but I was okay with that, you know. So I didn't see it as something that was like, you're not throwing away your career because you go to do something you're passionate about. If anything, I think you learn, you know, you get more experience, like managing employees, like,
I always
you know,
say that.
and so I was pretty, and like talking to my parents too, they were supportive. They're like, yeah, if this is what you want to do, like we support you.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. Like, you get so much experience running your own business that you can demand a higher salary or a better position when you go back. But also, I think what you said earlier makes a lot of sense. When you're out socially and people are like, what do you do? It feels so much better to have like a real passion about what you say rather than saying, oh, I work, you know, in banking or finance. Again, it's a great job, but people are like, all right, I don't really want to sit here and talk to you about finance for an hour, but I do want to talk to you about the motor car industry, because when I met you, I was so fascinated. I could talk to you for hours about what you did and what your plan is because it's so cool.
Well, I'm sure vice versa, and I'm sure there's people out there that fucking love investment banking. Like you said, that's their ultimate dream, and they could talk about that for hours. But clearly, there was something else that was missing, and I think that was probably that fulfillment element. Well, I think that all three of you could probably kind of connect to this, being entrepreneurs. But what do you find to be the most challenging thing about running this business, and how do you overcome those challenges?
Oh, well, I mean, I think like trying not to like, I think about my 3-year plan. I think about my 5-year plan, my 10, and it's like, you can get way ahead of yourself. And it's like, then you just get so stressed out and you think about all the things you're not doing and like, oh, I wanted to do this 6 months ago and I still haven't done it. And it's like, sometimes you just have to block all that out and just be like, okay, what am I doing today? Like right now, because like, otherwise I'm not gonna get anything done, you know? And so it's, you know, I've learned to have to be okay with sometimes like leaving 10 messages unread or like, you know,
Unless
marked
they're
as
from
like,
your wife.
Of course,
right.
And
There
we
are some
respond.
exceptions, but like, you know, to have productivity, like when you have so many different people coming to you for so many different things, if it's new business or if it's like, you know, an operations, you know, like some things are higher priority, but you just have to sometimes like, you know, do things in chunks. And it's like, but you know, I try not to get like too stressed out when things happen that are like beyond my control, or it's just like, okay, this happened, we're going to deal with it like one step at a time, kind of. So that's probably the hardest thing for me.
honestly, that's wonderful advice. I think that's applicable to so many different industries, but still being an entrepreneur is just taking it one day at a time. Now, sometimes what I have to tell him is like, just slow back down, focus on what you have in the next hour rather than what you have in the next year, because otherwise your brain's just going to be in a complete tizzy. So how do you envision the future of your business going? What are your hopes and aspirations for it?
Oh man, I've lots. I think that I want to make the business like be a lifestyle business where it's like it's still fun. Like I still want to, we have cars that we fix up and we rent out, and it's not the easiest business because there's a lot of like wear and tear and maintenance on the cars. And there's more like, okay, we could get into like media and we could create a TV show with the rental experience in Hollywood and some of our cool like musician customers.
That's a good idea.
And
Isn't
I
it?
think it would be like a really great version of comedians in cars getting coffee.
Yeah. Or reality. He
I was
could
about to
go
say
the
reality
route
TV.
with it.
Yeah, that's what I was
So
thinking.
there's all these opportunities. I want to maintain like the more like blue collar like service that we offer. Like we work on cars, like I want to keep that aspect of it. But also, I think there's opportunities that will come to us that are a little more, exciting in terms of like long-term potential. So it's kind of a balance of both of those.
Remind me, I have a really good friend. He's a fine art photographer and he does absolutely crazy shit with vintage cars. I mean, to the point where like he obviously wouldn't do this with one of your cars, but like he's blown up Rolls Royces and like Porsches and stuff like that just for the shits and giggles of it, right? But he does enjoy renting beautiful like vintage cars. So I'm gonna give him
That
the
he won't
contact.
explode.
That he won't explode.
Okay, good.
I promise you, or scratch or do anything. He's very
Yeah.
careful with the ones that he needs to be careful with.
Yeah,
I'll get your contact information. I'll send it on to him.
sounds good.
Phenomenal.
If people are up front, sometimes we hear weird. We had someone who did a music video and they're like, we're just going to let you know up front, we're going to drive it through a wall. And I was like, okay, well, if you take proper precaution, I was like, what's the wall going to be made of?
Yeah.
And then they said it was like canvas, I think. So I was like, okay, let's do this, So, I mean, but if the cars get damaged, people pay to fix them.
I was about to say
and,
that's why you got insurance
Yeah,
and that's why you
yeah.
got that penalty at the end of it. Tyler won't do that, I promise you. All right, thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think that was really insightful and really motivating in a lot of ways. Gabby,
Yes.
so many questions to
So
ask
many.
you. You've had an incredibly diverse and expansive creative career, correct me if I'm wrong, from being a celebrity news host at Hollywire to contributing pieces on Cosmo, Giddy, Pop Sugar, Thought Catalog. You authored 20 Guys You Date in Your 20s. And you had a podcast called Am I Dating a Serial Killer?
Yeah.
Which, when I was researching that, I was like, this crossover is so amazing.
Yeah.
Especially for women. And most recently launched Bad Influencer.
Yes.
The Bad Influencer podcast, couldn't get that out, which Fast Rounds and Me had the pleasure of being a part of.
Which was amazing. So cool.
So
cool.
exciting. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
But was working within the literary, media, and entertainment industry always a passion of yours?
Always. Yeah. I was a theater kid. So I always knew I wanted to work in entertainment. I was a theater kid who read Entertainment Weekly cover to cover when I was like too young to be reading Entertainment Weekly. I went to school for broadcast journalism. My dad joked with me, being like, "You don't read the newspaper," and I go, "Yeah, but I always read the art section." Obsessed with Perez Hilton, who today has become a friend, which is amazing, and also a collaborator. So I was always like so into pop culture, so into media in every single way. I was lucky enough to go to Emerson College, where I really got to develop those passions of mine. I went in with a major for broadcast journalism. I picked up another major in writing for television and film because of my mentor, the executive producer of Friends, Kevin Bright. He was an artist and resident at Emerson, and he started this thing called the Kevin Bright Workshop, and I was honored to be one of the first students to do this workshop my sophomore year. And he scouted me as a host and realized I was funny, which I guess I never kind of owned. Like I never knew I was funny. I always had a dark sense of humor. And through working with him, I produced and developed and hosted his first pilot. He did one of his first pilots he did at Emerson and went on to do several more. So I kind of have always been a writer and then also always being a journalist as well. And so I guess that's kind of where the place of like doing a podcast, Am I Dating a Serial Killer kind of comes from. And then but then Bad Influencer comes more from the skills I learned from Kevin, and that Bad Influencer being a 9-part fiction rom-com for your ears show. And 20 Guys You Date in Your 20s is part reported. It's nonfiction. So that also kind of hones into the journalism thing. So I guess I've always wanted to do it. I didn't know that my path would lead me here, but this is where I am today.
What was the first job?
First job ever? Oh, this is the first job I ever got paid to do, and this is going to make me sound like really pretentious, was I was a model for Abercrombie Kids.
Really?
Yes.
That's cool.
Nothing wrong with that.
But it just like sounds like it's like, oh, you're a model, like great. No, but that was the first time I got paid. And then that led to a long career in retail after that. The modeling thing never took off because my mom wouldn't let me.
Wait, so you went to retail. You didn't go to journalist or
Well, sorry, you said like job. You're saying
No,
like
I mean,
job,
like,
like first. This is my first gig,
career, like, post-college.
Okay, because I
Yes,
thought you were
yes.
like first job, like that was that.
But I
was
love
a
that little tidbit that
and
we
then
just got.
And then I was a camp counselor, and I was like a babysitter. Like
Sorry.
when you say like jobs, like
I
that's
meant
what I
like
think.
to do
No,
with your
first,
career.
yeah, first job out of college was I was very lucky to become a production assistant on Comedy Central's Important Things with Dimitri Martin. And through that, I ended up being the executive assistant to the showrunner and the executive producer, and also became a writer's PA, which then, so that's kind of also how that path like worked out for me.
Wow.
And I was in it. He put me in some sketches back then.
That's so
So it was a
cool.
great first job, but then there was a lot of not great jobs after that.
Oh, I'm sure. What has been kind of like I mean, it could be a favorite piece that you've written from one of like the op-eds, or it could be one of your favorite jobs. Like, what has been kind of like one of the highlights of your career thus far?
Honestly, I think my book and Bad Influencer have been like the two biggest, like those are the two pieces I'm like the proudest of. And I feel like also are in line with everything I've been working towards. So the book felt very much in line with all of like the decade of like, I mean, I've been blogging since like Blogspot and Blogger. Like I had a blog like in college, which it was a long time ago. So to kind of like turn all of that into a published work that then helps other women is amazing. And then for Bad Influencer, that kind of felt like every single screenplay, every single pilot script I've written over the years, and to get that produced and to get it made and to be so involved in it as a co-creator and executive producer and writer, and to work with Jane Green, New York Times bestselling author, was just like a dream come true. So I do feel like those are my two proudest moments thus far. I think I have more to go.
I was about to say,
There's still so much more to go.
Wait, so
Yeah.
how difficult is it to write a book and like get it?
So,
like,
I mean, it's
part of the
funny.
New York Times bestseller.
Well, my book's never been a New York Times bestseller,
Yeah.
but it has been published in French, so I think that's a pretty big accomplishment.
That's cool.
But I know for Jane, yes, she's an 18 New York Times bestselling fiction author, which is incredible. And then for Bad Influencer to become the #1 fiction podcast on Apple Podcast was also felt like such a huge accomplishment, especially coming from such a small network. We're a female-driven, female-run network, so that was like massive. But in terms of getting a book published, I'm currently in the process of writing the proposal for my second book, and that is the first step. Is you write a proposal. You basically write the introduction to the first 2 chapters of your book, and then you have to have like the whole pitch for the book with all of like your marketing information, what this book is about, how it fits into the market, and then you have, if you have an agent. Before I didn't have an agent, my proposal got me an agent, and then the agent takes it to different publishers, and then the publisher says they like it, they don't like it. So it's difficult, and they're very picky. And even as someone who has written a book that did very well, I don't know if this current book I'm working on is going to get published or
It
not.
will.
It
Yeah.
will.
For
Put all the good
Thank
juju
you.
into it. Definitely gonna do it.
Wait, do you know Chelsea Briggs?
Yes, from Hollywire. Yeah.
Oh, she
Yeah.
just hosted our TV show.
Oh, amazing! I
Oh,
love
yeah.
her.
Oh,
She's
yeah,
so
we were on the
she's so
podcast.
great.
Yeah, we have her on the
Yeah,
podcast
she's
next
amazing.
week.
I haven't seen her in a while, but she's so talented.
I don't know why Hollywire.
Yeah, she was. I think she started Hollywire.
She started.
I think she did.
What
I
is
don't quote
Hollywire?
me. It's an entertainment news network. So she
Oh.
was. It was originally. I think it was originally her. You should ask her this. I think it was originally her company, and then Roar, which is a management company, ended up acquiring it, and now it's run by Tony Morris. He's our CEO. So I think they acquired it from her. I think. I don't know. You should ask her.
Alright, I want to talk a little bit more about Bad Influencer, considering the fact that it's like still kind of
Yeah,
fresh as
yeah.
well. What was the inspiration behind it, and what can listeners expect from it?
Sure. So Jane Green had actually had the story. So her story was that there was a girl who her biggest dream was to be an influencer, and she makes a wish in a fountain, and there's a tornado, and the wish comes true, and she wakes up a famous influencer. And there's this other girl that she's obsessed with, whose name is Eva, and she wants to be just like her. And in her new world, her and Eva are best friends. But that's all she had. She's like, go. So I ended up like building out this world, and she thought it would be a perfect project for me because I'm very connected to influencer culture. A lot of what I cover on Hollywire is like Gen Z influencer, TikToker drama. So I was very aware of that. Also, in entertainment news, I always love reading about influencer scams and scandals. I'm a big Dumois consumer. So that was like a big inspiration, was just kind of like there's a pattern. Like when you cover entertainment news, you see a pattern. Like the same things happen over and over again. Like how many times is a Kardashian gonna like steal from another designer? Like how many times can that happen? How many times do Bachelor contestants not know that it's not okay to ever be in blackface ever? Like how do they not know
When
this?
will people
Like,
understand
How do
this?
they just in general? Why are Bachelor contestants doing it posting pictures about it and then acting so surprised when someone finds it. Like, why? And then going on The Bachelor and knowing that they do the background checks. Like, I never understand that. So it was kind of like taking these patterns that I've seen with the celebrity scandals and kind of building it in, and then kind of taking a little bit about what I've learned from being, I always consider myself like influencer adjacent. Like, I've been to influencer events as part of the media. I have like a micro following. I don't consider myself an influencer, but some people do. And so kind of like writing to that and writing to what was going on. And I had written a pilot previously called Saddle Ranch about the time when everyone was going to Saddle Ranch during the pandemic.
Yes.
And I wrote this in 2020. So I kind of took a little bit about what I was writing in that and Jane's concept and kind of created the show with her.
So Saddle Ranch is in the podcast?
Oh no, I don't. It's because this
Okay.
takes place in New York.
Oh,
So
okay.
Bad Influencer takes place in New York, but we are in talks about season 2, and I would love for season 2 to take place in LA. I
Because
think
if you're
that'd
going to
be
have
cool.
it in LA, Saddle Ranch has to be.
It has to be in it. But I don't know. But I don't think
What's the
people go there anymore. But like,
What's the deal with Saddle Ranch?
Saddle Ranch was a place where like every single celebrity, not celebrity, it was like Gen Z influencers would go to Saddle Ranch in the height of the pandemic for some reason.
It became this fad for some reason. Even
So
though
wait,
it's
that's why when I went there in the pandemic, you were like, "Why are you
I
going to
was
Saddle
rolling my
Ranch?"
eyes at
Yeah,
you.
because
Yes,
it was,
exactly why.
I
but
thought it was a cool country bar.
it
like,
used to be, but then in
Sunset.
the early aughts, it was a hot spot, and then it
Yeah.
kind of fell off. And now apparently Gen Z is obsessed with Barney's Beanery in West Hollywood,
Yes.
which also used to be like a hot spot that you'd see people at all the time. That kind of died down, but now it's like having a renaissance.
Which has annoyed the locals to no
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
truth be
I
told.
like Barney's Beanery.
It's
Yeah,
a great
well,
like.
we like it on like a Thursday afternoon when there's nobody in there. When
Yeah,
you're
look,
you know
I
what I mean?
can't
Like, I don't want to
imagine
be there on a Saturday night when it's packed to the
Waiting
rafters.
in a line
Oh,
to
I
go
know.
into a bar.
Wait, they do
No.
have arcade games though, which I'm always
Yes,
I
Papa
have
Shop.
the record for
Yeah.
the basketball Papa
best.
Shop thing. So.
It's the best.
a little humble brag there, isn't it? All right, so to kind of end this off, I just want to know, considering your career's been so expansive and you've had your finger in lots of different kind of pies, what's some advice that you could give to people who have similar passions to yours going forward in this world?
Sure. I feel like I talk to a lot of people that have ideas, but they don't do it. And I think like that, and that's the thing that I feel like is a strength of mine, is just to do it. Like if you have an idea, if there's a movie you want to write, if there's a TV show you want to write, if there's a podcast you want to do, like just do it. Like just put it together, but also know when to give up. I think a lot of times we do something, and if it's not working, like then step away from it. Like I kind of have a thing like a friend asked me to do a podcast recently, and not recently, a while ago, and I said, okay, sure, let's try it out. We do it, and after doing it, I'm like, this isn't working. Like, and it's nothing against her. It's nothing. The concept's not working. This is not working for me. I don't want to invest more time in it. But hey, I tried the thing, and now I'm gonna walk away from it. And I was like, you can take it, do whatever you want with it. But for me, my heart's not in it. So I'd say if your heart's not in something, don't force it. But if something feels right and you feel like it's there, do it. And just like, I mean, it's also not glamorous. Like I don't have days off. Like every single day I'm working on something. That's very much the freelance life. But and then also to accept the ebbs and flows of creativity, because you're gonna have some days where you're so inspired and it's gonna feel like a great day, and then you're gonna have another day where you can't imagine doing more than swiping through TikTok. And that's okay, because everything is inspiration. Everything ends up fueling something. And so knowing when to rest and knowing when to attack, I think, is very key.
Beautiful
That's
advice. I can see Joe just like nodding his head
I
furiously.
Yeah.
was
My
just on like
peripherals.
a motivational speech panel, and they asked me about like being an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
that was like my main thing. Is 90% of people don't even start, and if you just start, you're ahead of everybody else.
Right, because most people, I can't tell you how many people, like also when I started writing a book, I'd be like, oh, I want to write a book. And I literally would say, okay, here's the proposal that got my book sold. Here's the format. Like, if you need
Yeah.
anything at all, I'm here for you. Like, good luck.
Yeah, and I think like
And they never,
I think
yeah.
a lot of entrepreneurs have blinders on in the best way, where they think they could do anything.
Right.
And she always tells me, she's like, you just think like you could literally do anything. I'm like, yeah, maybe it's
He thinks
bad,
he
but
can
I
be
really do.
president of
Because
the
when you're
United
talking
States.
about your book, of course I don't want to take away from
No.
it. But in my head, I'm like, oh, maybe I could write a book.
You could write a
Because
book. You could
just
write a
who
book.
knows, right?
You could write a
You
book.
just don't know.
It's
Yeah.
that blind faith in yourself.
Yeah.
I think is the key differentiator between.
We all have that. You
Yeah.
know,
So
like
let's say all
obviously,
three of you do, and I think that's
so
so
do you,
fascinating.
being
I do
a
too.
very
I mean, I haven't
successful
started
model.
a company yet, but that's you know what I mean. The key word being I think that I have that motivation within me, and it's obviously incredibly inspiring to sit in a
Right.
room with three people in front of me who have done just that. Just gone, no, I have what I want, and I'm going to go after it, and even if it doesn't work out, then on to the next.
Yeah.
But clearly, it's worked out for all three of you. So congratulations.
And we still have ways to go. But,
Yeah.
Of course, a consistent learning process, but
Yeah.
the fact that you got off your ass and did it, that's the
Mhm.
most important thing.
Yeah, you need to have a good plan, but you don't have to have all the dots connected.
Mhm.
You have to have some faith that like I'm gonna figure some things out, you know, because
And it's okay to go off of the plan, you know?
Yeah.
Like I do think that so many times when I finally do the project that I'm getting paid for, I got that opportunity because of all the unpaid work I've done on not saying like I did projects where people didn't pay me, but projects on my own, like, you know, my own writing, my own thing that I've been working on, then led to that opportunity.
Yeah, I think what you said was perfect because my team's here. Like we're trying to put all these systems in place and getting more organized as a company, and it's great. I really love it. It's going to help us so much. But there gets to be a point where it's like over systemizing and like trying to get the perfect plan. And if you like try and come up with the perfect plan, you're never going to find it, and you're just wasting a lot of time. So it's like finding that balance of having a really good plan, but then just doing it because the rest will fall into place.
An actionable plan rather than a perfect plan.
Yes.
Love that. Okay, so I write the blogs for First Rounds on Me, which is something I truly adore. And one of my favorite things to write about is like the modern dating dictionary. Now, you just said that you're quite tapped into like the Gen Z world. So I feel like you're going to be a wizard at this, but Daren, I'm real excited to see if you can figure out what some of these are really common dating terms are. Are you ready?
Maybe you should start with Daren because if Gabi knows the answer.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I guess. So
Okay.
Gabi, you kind of stay out of this one because I feel like you're already going to
Yeah.
know. Daren, what do you think cushioning is?
oh boy. Oh yeah,
I don't know either.
That is-
Just to let you know.
It's a lot less sexual than it sounds. I don't know why cushioning sounds so sexual, but in my head it does.
I think it's like you have a backup person who you're keeping around in case you don't have like a better option or something.
Ding, ding, ding. One for
Wow.
Daren.
Wow.
That's exactly right. It's basically like a safety,
Wow, that's
safety net
impressive.
of options.
I think they also call it benching, right?
They do call it. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of varieties of each of these because there is like there's like multifaceted.
Wildly
but it-
impressed.
Yeah,
Wildly
me too.
impressed.
It's like it's when someone keeps multiple potential romantic interests on the side just in case their current relationship doesn't work out. That's what the technical term is. But,
Well said.
what do you think ground hogging is? She knows.
If you go on like a winter dating hiatus and then you pop back up in the spring, I guess is that?
I love
I don't know.
that interpretation of it, but that's not what it means. It is the insanity of dating the same type over and over again and expecting a different result. Like that famous Einstein quote of like. What
So
is
the
it?
movie reference.
Yeah.
Well, also the movie, yeah. The movie
Also,
Groundhog
yes,
Day.
and Groundhog Day as well. So it's kind of like doing the same thing over and over again, dating the same type of person over and over again, and expecting them to turn out different somehow, which we all know is not going to happen. All right, so this is kind of like a two-pronged thing because again, it's kind of like the first one where it's like there's multiple sayings to it: submarining or zombie.
Oh, I mean, submarines are kind of stealthy, so maybe it's like following someone on social media, but not like communicating with them.
I like that, but it's not exactly what. Do you want to give the
Yeah, yeah. So zombieing is when you ghost someone and then you rise from the dead. That's zombieing.
Okay.
Which I guess could also be submarining because a submarine goes underwater for a while and then they pop back up. So
She explained it perfectly.
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think breadcrumbing is?
Hmm.
You could just see the look of terror go
I think he's thinking about his like favorite chicken with breadcrumbs on it, and I was like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
Breadcrumbing. It's like a trail, so like giving someone hints that you're into them, or
Or giving them kind of crumbs that like to lead to what do you call it? To
to
lead
lead
them on.
basically.
But you're not really fully invested. You're not giving them the whole
So it's
loaf
like a
of
little
bread.
flirty message
Yeah.
here, a little how you going there, but it's never
There's
really
Okay.
fully invested.
There's no
in anything.
follow through. There's no
it's like dangling a carrot. So I think
Yes.
of okay.
carroting.
Hey, let's-
Carrot
I think
dangling.
I think the
Right.
breadcrumbs is like a trail.
Carroting.
But-
Writing that down, Karen. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And the last one I have for this is orbiting.
He kind of just described
Yeah,
it.
it kind of is the same thing now that I think about
Okay.
it.
So orbiting would be like watching someone's Instagram stories, sending them DMs, like
It's more
always
of a
being
social aspect. of
always
it.
being around them, but you're orbiting, so you never intersect. So you never have any intention to like go out on a date, take them out, but the other person you're doing it to thinks that you're into them because it's like, oh, he always watches my Instagram stories. He's always sending me the fire emojis, but it's like, no, he never wants to actually intersect
I
with you.
never thought that was a real thing until my friends in LA, guys,
Yeah,
would be like, she looked at my story. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
yeah.
And he's like, I think she likes me. She looked at my story. And I started to put all the pieces together.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is a thing that people pay attention to who looks at their stories and who doesn't.
People that have a lot of time on their hands.
Oh, a lot of time. They're so over analytical.
I never thought of
Yeah.
that. I never
Yeah.
once looked at who looked at my
Oh wait, so
story.
that's differentiated. Like breadcrumbing is like kind of more like over text and in person, and then orbiting is purely through social media, basically.
Yes, but I mean I think I could see people using, but breadcrumbing, I think the big difference is orbiting. It's like you'll never meet. So breadcrumbing could lead to dates. It could lead to meeting up, but it's non-committal.
Yes.
Where orbiting, I think to truly orbit someone, you never actually like see them in person.
I like that.
It's only digital.
Got the pro here.
I learned something new today. It's fantastic. All right, this is a new segment, and I think we're going to keep this one if today goes well because it's just it's very enjoyable for me to go onto the internet and find the absolute shittiest fucking date stories.
And let's give
gossip.
Gabi and Daren context. We now have our podcast team saying that we need to change up the podcast.
Oh, okay,
So this is
format.
the first episode where we've gotten some outside help. So
What
really
are
with
you
us.
calling the segment?
Shittiest date
Shittiest
reaction.
date, okay.
I haven't come up with a full official name yet, but we'll go with it. So I read this online, and I actually saw somebody else read this through like I think it was a TikTok video, and I was like, holy shit! So I went online and I found the full story. I'm going to get your reaction to it, obviously, as I keep saying it, but I want to know what you would do in this situation,
Okay.
respectively. Okay. So this girl meets a guy on Tinder. They get on well, and after 3 days, he invites her over for dinner. He poured her a glass of wine, and they were drinking and chatting when suddenly she felt her tummy rumble. The cramps started to creep in, and she knows she needs to use the toilet, and really fast. She asked him to show her where it was, and he immediately jumped to his feet, insisting he needed to clean it before she could use it because his housemates were filthy, etc., etc. At this point, she really was like quite desperate, and so insisted it didn't really matter. But he like ran into the bathroom and locked the door and like started cleaning the bathroom. Right, so she's losing she couldn't hold it any longer, and she poops herself.
No. They're both, and also shitty dates, like pun intended.
Yeah,
like-
exactly. That's
yeah.
what I'm going with. So I'd like to tell you that's where the end of the story, but sadly we've only just kicked it
Oh
off.
no.
About 5 minutes later, he unlocked the bathroom door to find her covered in her own feces. Sorry for that mental picture, everybody. He was surprisingly sweet about it, handed her a towel, and went to fetch her some clothes to change into. Between the toe-curling embarrassment and physical stomach pain, she says she felt slight relief that this guy was like being so kind and understanding. Then she realized why. To quote, this is what she said. This is a true story, by the way. I'll never forget the image of walking down the stairs to him holding his clothes with my poo smeared all over his chest. I thought I was hallucinating. Surely that was the only explanation. But as he started explaining his poo fetish and how he felt I was the kind of person he could reveal it to, reality hit me and overwhelming shock set in. I grabbed my clothes and ran out of the house as quickly as I could. When I got home, my flatmate convinced me to call the police. I told him his name and address, and they revealed that I was the third girl to report him on the exact same thing. He'd been giving women laxatives
That's what I thought. That was my first thing. I
And
was
then
like, he
stalling.
definitely, yeah.
until they pooed themselves. Dare say this is the worst Tinder date I've ever been on.
Oh my goodness.
So I want to know. Obviously, shock and awe is the reaction, because like, who on earth would ever think that was reality?
Yeah.
What would you do in that situation?
I think, well, so I would have definitely, gosh, I would have definitely left when he was locking the door and not letting me go in, and I would have just booked it, and I would have left, and I would have found the closest nearest restroom,
Or put
and-
yourself on the street.
or put myself in the street, and I've never seen him again, and because I think that's just so rude to not like, to like, yeah, when you're like, I have to use your bathroom, and be like, it's dirty, and also it's like, what do you? Well, because my first thought was like he was hiding something in the bathroom, like girl stuff or whatever, but it's so much worse to like just not be accommodating to a guest in your home who really needs to use the toilet.
Exactly. And then kind of under the guise of like his roommates were filthy, and then she's like, no, I really need to go, and he's like,
Yeah,
and just
Yeah.
ran in the room.
I would have left. The second he locked the door and I had to really go, I would have just booked it. I would have left.
Darren?
I mean, hey, if that's this guy's fetish, like that's one thing, but like you have to know this is like that's a very like uncomfortable thing for somebody. So like you're like knowingly putting somebody through that, like
I feel like you trapped
That's
them
awful.
into the fetish,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
yeah, that's
Like,
awful.
But then it also goes to the other thing about like watching your drink and why it's really not a good idea to
I
go to
didn't
someone's
think about that.
because it's what, a first date, second
Third
date?
date.
I guess third date you are going to someone's apartment, but to always, even I guess on a third date, you have to be alert and you have to watch what they're putting into your drink because she clearly didn't. I mean, right? Like he had to have been like she didn't see it get poured. When did he put the thing into the drink?
Ladies ladies and men. It's not just to do with ladies. Like watch what people are putting into your drinks. I just can't believe the fact that she like good on her roommate for going call the police because this is absolutely unacceptable. But the fact that the police were like this, it's not funny. But you're the third woman to come forward with this exact same story, and the fact that he's been putting laxatives in people's drinks.
Also, once I went in my pants, I probably would have been super embarrassing.
I would have left. Yeah, that's the other thing. There's like.
Right.
It's embarrassing.
Well, and then on my podcast, Am I Dating a Serial Killer? This is actually the type of stuff that we've covered in our first season, where sometimes when someone does something like this, there's a history of worse.
Yes.
So, like, that's why it's so great. That's why they should call the police. And also, that's why more people should report when they're in dating situations like this where they feel unsafe or they feel violated. And most of us are scared to do it. But actually, when you do it, you help other people out. Because I'm sure this leads to a criminal path of doing other things, too.
100%. That's not just the start of it. And like you said, it's kind of really crossing that boundary of consent. Like,
Yes.
if you each to their own, everybody can have their own fetishes, and you're well within your right to be able to do so. You cannot force that fetish on somebody, or like basically force them into a situation where they have to indulge in it.
Well, that's the big thing also with the BDSM community that I know about. Like people that, and that's why everyone got so upset with the Army Hammer of it all, if you remember that, because like so much of the BDSM community is like the consent is crystal clear.
Oh my God, yes.
So when someone identifies as part of that, but then isn't giving consent, it's like very much against what what it stands
It's
for.
a very good example with
Yeah.
him, especially because, like you said, it's like
No
there are
consent.
room for every fetish out there.
Right.
But if you don't allow a very clear cut boundary of consent within that, especially within the BDSM, where there's like a lot of kind of gnarly shit going on, fun gnarly shit.
Yeah, but
gnarly
it's
shit
for your
nonetheless.
safety also.
That's
Yeah.
100%. Alright, so I just wanted to get you ready because I read that at home alone, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh my
Oh my
god.
god, that's awful.
Alright, so we're gonna move into rapid fire,
Okay.
which is kind of just like short, sweet answers directed to both of you. See what your answers are. Describe each other in 3 words.
That
Do I
look.
go first?
I know.
Well, she's funny, very funny. I've learned, and it's so nice dating or being married to someone with a
Dating.
good sense of humor because you really need it, like in
Mhm.
so many situations in life, and it really. Yeah.
Alright, funny's 1, 2 more.
We're not good.
This is supposed to be rapid fire, yeah.
Rapid fire.
And I'm thinking about what
What
she
I'm
was
gonna
gonna
say.
but-
No, but you should say what
No,
you
it's-
really mean.
Well, she's very pretty
Okay, thanks.
and stylish. Look at this
Yeah,
dress.
look
you
It
know?
is very stylish.
Yeah. And I need 3 things.
That was 3. That was pretty
Those 3.
stylish and funny. I love that.
The first thing that attracts me to Daren is how he is confident but not cocky. And I feel like that is like a very difficult balance. And a lot of, especially in Los Angeles, I feel like it's very hard. So I that's something that I really, really love about him. The other thing is how he's so logical and calm. And that is something that has rubbed off on me because I am not logical. I am not calm. I run on emotion. And so it's so nice to have that balance and that he inspires me to be a better, calmer person, to be a calmer person. I won't say better person because I always hate when couples are like, my partner inspires me to be a better person. It's giving like your partner's telling you you're awful and you need to be better. No, but he inspires me to be calmer and to really take my time more with things. And then I guess I would also say that that he's very. I love how passionate he is about his work, and that was something that when I was correcting him from earlier, because I remember on our first date he told me about the side hustle he had, and he was so passionate about it. And I could see how his face just lit up, and so it's so nice to see that every day his face is lighting up when he talks about the work that he does.
Awesome.
Oh, that's
I know
really
this is rapid
beautiful.
fire, but
Yeah.
to the second point about him being so calm,
Yeah.
do you think that's a male-female thing, or do you think it's?
Oh, I've
unique in
dated
some
some
situation?
very
it's a
not
Taurus
calm.
thing.
Yeah, because when you
Oh,
were saying
yeah.
that, I saw her eyes ping because that's how I am with her. I'm like always.
I think it is.
Very
I think it is a
even
Taurus thing. Actually, I do think
Like
that
I'm
Taurus
like you,
is.
I'm very excitable. I'm very run off emotion. Not to say that I can't be logical, but like it's not truly the place that I operate from. And he's so calm, cool, collected, especially in the face of very stressful
Yes.
situations.
Same. Yeah.
That it rubs off on me in the best way.
Mhm.
Like you said, it doesn't make me. a better
Sometimes
person.
you don't like it though. Sometimes like you can't just be calm.
Sometimes I just want you to understand that I'm allowed to be frustrated
Yeah.
in situations. I'm allowed to be a bit heightened before I calm down because that's my way of processing things. I'm not automatically going to go to calm.
Or sometimes I need to yell, and it's not. I'm not yelling at him. I just need to like yell
Right.
about the situation and scream about the
I've
situation.
gotten way better.
Like
with
that's
that.
how
Just
I
like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
you need to yell,
Yeah.
That's fine.
Do your thing.
I think you've just understood how I process things, and I understand how you process things. And and that communication, that understanding between partners.
Well, also as a Taurus, I'd get very defensive and just be like, no.
Just listen to me. I'm like, you listen to me.
Yeah.
Well, I have also like taken a hint. Like if she's stressed out, like let's say we're like late and we're trying to get somewhere. Like if I like move faster and like show her that like, all right, I see you. Like I'm on your page. Even if it's like fake, I'm just faking it. It like calms her down because she's like, good. He gets the message now.
I
Like
get really
you chill out.
frustrated
You know.
when we're running late, or I'm together and he's like taking forever, and we're like, we have to go. What are you like? We're supposed to be there 5 minutes.
I'm
ago.
the exact. You
Yeah.
and I are
Yeah.
sisters in that. Truth be told. Okay, what do you think the best date night idea is?
Like that we've gone on together.
Could be what you've gone on together, what you think is just the best for couples or singles out there.
We like I love when we cook together. That's like really fun when we have nights where we're just like, okay, we're gonna like. But I preface this with not on a night when we're hungry and we're like, let's figure out what we're gonna make. Like on a night we put a plan into it and we like get all the ingredients and we decide to make something like a little bit more out of the ordinary, and and have some wine and make something and then watch a good movie.
Is it a married life date question
Yeah,
or
that's-
like
Could be
we're
anything.
still dating? Yeah.
Just both.
Yeah.
Who's a better cook?
I mean,
Yeah.
no question. Gabby's an amazing cook.
Darren's good at
Yeah.
he's better at baking, and I'm really bad at
Really?
baking. So he's really good. He knows how to make an excellent pizza crust. He knows how to make excellent pasta. I mean, pasta's not really baking, but he's really good with dough, and that's something that
From
I am.
scratch.
And there's only like one cookie recipe
Yeah,
I can
enjoy
do
that.
with dough. Other than that, I don't mess with
You
it.
had me at pizza crust.
Yeah.
The few things I can make are like they'll be like tasty, I feel like, but not very healthy or like well balanced. So it's, but what she makes is also healthy and tasty. So I just let her handle that. But
You guys are very
It's
similar.
just a bit, the more
Yeah,
and more I
we're-
talk to you, the more and more I'm like, we are very similar. Movie night or game night?
Movie night.
Darren?
Yeah.
yeah, movie night. Yeah.
What's the most romantic thing your partner has ever done for you?
Oh. I don't know.
Romantic.
Romantic.
It's hard when you put it on
It's
the
hard
spot,
to think
I
about that because it's like, I don't know, like, it's hard. It's
I
hard.
feel like it's like I feel like you've like asked me to dance before. Like we'll go to an event or something. Like if it's like we're at like a wedding, you will like let's go to the dance floor. I think that's
It makes you
romantic.
feel
Yeah.
special. I love that.
Although I would hope you dance with your wife at a wedding.
No, but it
Yeah,
takes-
but there's
it
something
takes-
about-
it
Yeah.
takes
I
the
just
pull out.
it's like I just I don't know something
Yeah,
about
that's really
dancing. I
romantic.
think is like
She
makes.
kind of
Yeah.
always like whenever we're in a restaurant and nobody's dancing, there's no dance floor.
But there's a live band.
Yeah.
She's like, let's dance. I'm like,
Aw.
that's embarrassing, and then we'll do it, and then
Everyone starts
dancing.
doing it. That's so fun.
I'm like, we started a trend. What's going on?
Yeah.
Who is more likely to say I'm sorry after an argument?
Me. I don't think Daren says he's sorry after
That's
arguing.
that Taurus bull inside.
Yeah, I do, but it takes a little persuasion.
I have to like tell him. I have to be like, you have to say you're sorry now, and he's like, okay, yes. I'm
I
sorry.
always caveat it with like I'm sorry for these things. I'm not sorry for these.
I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry for the way you reacted to the situation, but I am sorry that I did the thing that may have caused your reaction.
All right, last one. I always like asking this, especially because you guys met on a dating app, correct? A lot. Which dating app did you meet on?
Bumble, but I do say that if First Rounds on Me was around, we would have easily met on First Rounds on Me because we used Bumble how First Rounds on Me is designed.
How long? did it take?
In the sense like we made plans, like there was literally 5 back and forth conversations, and like our conversation was literally about making plans. Like that was it.
Yeah,
and then we
that's right.
met, and then like that was. So I do think like I always, and then also that I had the mentality that I was only committing to one drink
I love that. You know why?
because of the wait, sorry, what?
We made it for people like yourselves. I'm
Yeah.
finding this guy from New York because that's what
Yeah,
I did.
yeah.
And someone who's a
Creative.
woman who's like, let's get to the chase. I'm too busy to like.
Yeah,
fuck
I don't have
around."
more than, and also once I switched my mindset to that, once I switched that like first dates only need to be a round of drinks or like or an hour. Like dating became so much easier and less scary because I was like, I'm only committing an hour, even though they don't know I'm committing an hour. I'm only committing an hour. If I don't like this person after a round, I can leave
Love it.
or give them a
Love
chance
it.
to be better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So based on that, if you could create one dating app feature that does not exist
Mhm.
or has existed in the past that you would bring back, what would it be?
I was just talking for the research for my second book. I was just talking to an astrologer about this, and I think there is this technology, but it would be cool if it was there. I don't think it should only have you match with these people, but it would be really great if like CoStar or something had a thing where they match not just your birth sign, but your big 3 or your like chart. I think it would be really cool if there was a way that everyone could put in their charts, and then there was a dating app that would match the charts and show you people that you might like have a connection with based on your
Quote unquote be
astrology.
compatible with a lot.
But also, but not keep you limited to just that, because I could
Yeah.
see like CoStar coming up with that, or some astrologers coming up with that. But I think it's too limiting. But I think it's nice to like have that option.
I think there's 3 astrology dating apps.
Yeah.
I think one of them's called Sweet Pea. I don't know.
But I think it would be cool if a dating app that already, like your dating app,
Yeah.
had that as like a feature, and it wasn't just what the dating app
It would
was.
definitely do well in LA.
Yeah,
That's right, that's
yeah,
right.
But
exactly.
I don't know how it would do in.
How about you, Darren?
I was thinking about like the show Love is Blind. Like, what if there was a feature where you could like have no pictures? It's just, this is the information about me. Do you want to start a conversation? You start a conversation, then maybe you have an option to see the picture like after a certain amount of time.
So
Have you,
get-
wait a second, have you ever seen Ted Lasso?
Uh,
The show?
Yeah, we watched
right,
the
the
first
song-
2
yeah.
seasons.
Yeah, there's a dating app on there called Banter, which is basically that exact kind of
Oh.
premise.
So
Okay,
s'mores
yeah.
like that too. So you guys are onto good things here. So
Yeah.
s'more, I think, as you conversate or go down someone's profile, their picture becomes more and more clear.
Ah.
So it's like the more you interact with them, the more clear the picture
Oh, that's
becomes.
an
I like
interesting
that.
concept.
Yeah, I think it's s'more. So shout out to s'more.
Yeah.
There you go. I love that you're always shouting at different dating apps on our podcast.
But so much of dating apps is finding the right dating app for you.
Exactly.
You know, like that's a big part of it.
We always say that there's room for every dating app in
Yeah,
the market.
there
we're,
is.
we're just here for people who are, intentional and ready
Yeah.
to get out on a date rather than wasting time on dating apps. But if you want to waste time on dating apps, there's plenty of them out there. Thank you so much, Gabi and Daren, for being here.
Thanks
This
for
has
having
been
us.
such an enlightening and insightful conversation. If you could tell the people out there where to find you.
Sure. You can find me on Instagram. It's Gabi Conti, ITSGABICONTI, or my website, gabiconti.com, GABICONTI.com. On my website, there's links for Bad Influencer, my book, Am I Dating a Serial Killer, all some of my articles, all that stuff.
Incredible.
And you should plug because he's not really, he's on
he
Instagram.
was.
Our business,
He-
yeah.
But I wouldn't,
Plug
do
the
not,
business.
do not follow his Instagram account. I stopped tagging him because it's
What's
like,
the business account?
It's Hollywood Classic Car.
Awesome.
Yeah. So if you need to rent a,
singular, not his company is Hollywood Classic Cars, but the Instagram is car.
Love it.
Hollywood
Yes.
Classic Car.
Well, that is all for today, my friends. Our collection of podcast episodes is continually growing with a wealth of intriguing and exciting discussions like this one already available, and even more in the pipeline. So make sure that you're subscribed. Be sure to follow Everything Fast Runs and Me across our various social platforms, and check out my bi-weekly blog posts where I delve into an array of thought-provoking, weird, and wonderful dating subjects. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and until we see you next time,